Lo escribí en el grupo.
Uy, agarraron a alguien.
¿Qué? ¿Por qué?
Agarraron a alguien, llevan a alguien.
¿Cierto? No, pero
sí.
No.
Sí, porque el guardia se bajó, él se bajó con él.
This is a very, very disturbing video. In it, we see a handcuffed woman go into a porta-potty and an ICE agent go in with her. Deeply concerning because
this mom of 8 was deported one day after accusing an ICE agent of sexual harassment. Sylvia Reyna Mendoza has emergency protected status in the U.S. after fleeing Mexico 40 years ago as a teenager to escape domestic violence. Now, according to Mendoza, an ICE contractor was harassing her with frequent calls, texts, and unwelcome sexually explicit images, including nudes and videos of him masturbating. The contractor also tried to solicit sexual favors from Reyna Mendoza, saying things like, "If you're good to me, I'll be good to you." The man in question was from BI Inc., an ICE contractor that was monitoring and overseeing Reyna Mendoza's open immigration case. When Mendoza tried to report the contractor, there was no follow-up, and the family said that there were attempts to delete evidence of her claims. This led Mendoza to seek a civil lawsuit against the company. But BI Inc. is a subsidiary of Geo Group, an enormous private prison that donated heavily to Trump's campaign and has since benefited enormously from his ICE raids.
We have seen a pattern over the years.
In immigration news, ProPublica and the Texas Tribune report guards at an ICE jail, that's Immigration and Customs Enforcement in El Paso, Texas, systematically sexually assaulted and harassed at least 3 prisoners. A 32-year-old Salvadoran woman who was recently released from the ICE jail brought the accusations to light and told her attorney she feared for other prisoners in custody. The assaults would allegedly take place in areas that were not recorded by surveillance cameras. Another woman who came forward, a 35-year-old mother from Mexico, faces deportation this week as attorneys demand a criminal investigation.
This clip, for example, was from 5 years ago.
Approximately 2,500 children separated at the border from their families are supposed to be reunited by July 26th. While the country pays attention to that story, there's another detention story which has gotten less coverage. That is, allegations of abuse inside detention centers. Data from the Department of Homeland Security's Office of the Inspector General show that thousands of migrants have claimed they were sexually abused while in ICE custody. How widespread is this problem?
So, sexual abuse in immigration detention has been happening for decades. These cases have come up through watchdog organizations. We wanted to take a deeper look and really understand the extent to which this was happening. And so we were looking at 2 sets of data. One was from the Office of the Inspector General, which you mentioned, and then the other was from ICE itself that was looking at 1,310 allegations of sexual abuse occurring between 2013 and 2017. So we were looking at those 2 sets of data, but understanding that there were a number of issues with those sets of data. The first, of course, is that this issue is largely underreported. We're talking about a population who are often fleeing violence and persecution, who are often asylum seekers, who don't speak the language, as in the case of ED and the guard Daniel Sharkey. There's this fear of deportation. If you tell someone, will you be deported back?
This clip is from 7 years ago. In December of 2025, the ACLU sent a letter to ICE detailing violent assaults about and including sexual abuse. The Louisiana Illuminator wrote in September, the complaints allege that a former assistant warden, Manuel Reyes, at the South Louisiana ICE Processing Center repeatedly sexually abused, threatened, and punished one of the complainants, who was referred to as Jane Doe, by her lawyers. The complainants would allege that Reyes ran an off-the-books late-night work scheme that coerced trans detainees into physically and psychologically painful labor. Reyes was not reached for comment.
As I said, literal criminals are joining ICE. I didn't show you all the videos, but just understand, they assaulted an 84-year-old married couple, and there's evidence of that. They shot a priest in the face with a pepper ball. They tear-gassed a baby and ran over people with cars. They tear-gassed journalists and cops. They zip-tied naked kids who were U.S. citizens and put them in the back of a U-Haul van at 2 o'clock in the morning. They deported a guy for having cologne. The cologne was named opium, so they pretended like it was actual opium and deported him. They deported a guy who was wrongfully imprisoned for 40 years. Finally gets his name cleared, is finally released, and he gets shipped out of the country. They tackled a 79-year-old car wash owner and hospitalized him. They've raided schools and meatpacking facilities and farms and Home Depots and 7-Elevens. We're dealing with actual demons here. That's what you need to understand. This isn't law enforcement. They're not law enforcement. These are the criminals. They're the problem. I know history. I read history. I know what this looks like. This is fascism. This is fascism. And only honest people will admit that.
Then there was a piece from PBS titled, "Hundreds of Immigrants Have Reported Sexual Abuse at ICE Facilities. Most cases aren't investigated, even though there are several laws meant to protect immigrants detained at ICE facilities from sexual assault and abuse. The primary law that offers this kind of protection to incarcerated and detained people is the Prison Rape Elimination Act." In this piece by Ziba Warsi, public records confirmed that a fifth woman had also made similar allegations against the same male nurse. I think what these reports and everything that we are seeing now is rather obvious. It is the cruelty to continue ongoing genocides. It is the cruelty by many white supremacist organizations who may or may not have been hired by the federal government to carry out the vision that someone like Stephen Miller has. Stephen Miller is a white supremacist, according to the Southern Poverty Law Center, and emails that they obtained where he was communicating with other far-right writers at different outlets, and including one website that he would not only go to all the time, but then try and push the narrative of these I reiterate, very, very far-right sites into publishing reports about. And it was always centered on immigration and the rights of migrants. Always. Always. He does not like that this country is a melting pot. He does not like that we have, although, as we have seen over and over again, imperfect, but we have some laws and rights in this country, not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. But he hated seeing the protection that people who don't look like him were given. And when I see exclusive reports from the Daily Mail where they are going through sourcing over months and months, close to a year, and what is leaked to them is that white supremacist tattoos are on many people who are trying to join ICE, it would not surprise me in the near future if this were to be the Proud Boys, the Oath Keepers, Patriot Front, etc. Because it's rather simplistic. These are the people that will do anything for white supremacy, including this. This is what they love. And we have seen too many reports now that there is no reason whatsoever. I have felt like this previously, but it does seem like we're past the point of no return for abolition of ICE. This is not needed anymore. And maybe there was no reason for it in the first place. Hey, I appreciate you watching. Now, if you can, please do become a channel member by going to youtube.com/TYTSports and clicking the join button. If that's too much for you, you can just go to tyt.com/join to become a member. It helps all of us out here at the Young Turks and keeps our network afloat. In addition, you could follow me on my socials on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Appreciate the love. Have a great day.